started off as a radar tech on board AWACS, so I have a highly technical radar and computer systems background, hundreds of hours flying on the E3, aluminum tube of fun or aluminum tube of death, depending on the day. So yeah, and then that by way of the Air Force landed here in the Boeing area because Boeing built and upgrades the plane I flew on, and just didn't re-enlist and stayed here and fell into the world of startups and worked my way up to be the right-hand man of founders and CEOs, as well as some colonels beforehand. And went back to school at University of Washington, their entrepreneurship program and data science, and really wanted to stay in the entrepreneurship space, but understand the financing side of things, and why investors make the decisions that they do, and really held out for that. So I was community operations and marketing at a veteran-founded and veteran-focused early-stage VC firm called Context Ventures, and then found my way into the Alliance of Angels, actually. They found me, which feels good after a very long job search after graduating. So that's me. But I would love to quickly talk about the questions that were brought up, because we really do cover those in the customer discovery class. The book, The Mom Test, has a beautiful framework that I have used with deadly force to get whatever I want, basically from anyone I want. I think I have probably 95% yes rate by using the framework. Vision framing, weakness, pedestal, ask. It's freaking genius. And you can do it under 300 characters for the LinkedIn connection request too. It's deadly, highly recommend it. And then product market fit also ties into talking to customers to find out who has the biggest need, the biggest willingness to pay. But yes, who will give you money is probably the best place to focus your attention on. All right, enough about me. I would love to introduce our panelists. So if you would tell us who you are and tell us about your startup, and we'll go from there.
Hi, everybody. I'm Swatee Surve, founder and CEO of Litesprite. Litesprite's a therapeutic gaming platform. So we build self-help tools in the form of clinically validated games that people use to manage chronic health conditions. And our data is used by payers, providers, and employers to help with the patient, member, and employee experience. Our first target's in mental health. So we have a clinically validated mental health video game, and we were one of the early companies in digital health. So this was launched in 2014. So the work that we've done in the research and contributing to the scientific foundation of the field has been recognized with over 30 global health innovation awards, including the first video game to win a US Surgeon General award. So my background is I've been working in the digital health space since the late 90s, early 2000s. I was in skunkworks groups for large Fortune 50 companies, starting with Eastman Kodak, Nike, Microsoft, T-Mobile, all working in the space of digital health and commercializing. So I was basically an entrepreneur in residence. So not just building product, but looking at the business opportunity before founding Litesprite. So that's a little bit about me.
Hello, everyone. My name is Adaobi Okoro, and I'm the founder of Deep Roots Co-op. We're based out in Atlanta, Georgia, but because the internet is global, so is our platform. We are a community-owned Groupon where our small businesses offer deals to our individual consumers. Because it's a co-op, the more you put into it, the more you get in the form of a dividend. What we're doing right now is, so for the last 5 years, we've been doing deals all around the world, and we are going to finally launch our web application so that our consumers can now start telling us the best businesses. We are looking for the best consumers, and we also have the best businesses. So I'm so excited to be here to connect with the ladies on here, and I'm here. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Vandana Mishra, and I'm founder of Go Easy, rideshare for children ages 5 to 18. I founded this company in 2019, and because of COVID, we couldn't start the operations. We had to pause until February 2022. And from last 3 years, We have serviced 30,000, more than 30,000 rides so far, and we are growing. There is my CTO. He's standing behind taking the picture. We both are working hard, and we see it's a growing market. The reason I started Rideshare for Kids is it goes back to my background. I'm a first generation immigrant and also first one to graduate college in my family. Um, my father did not wanted us to study. He was against the education, not just for girls, but for all the members in the family, because he think he could not afford it. But I was the one who stood odd amongst the family and did my computer science graduation. And then came here, worked for Microsoft for so many years. And then when I had my second child, I thought working for Microsoft was too much. I couldn't cope up. So joined a consulting company with my husband. It was our own. And then husband. And then we ran it for 7 years, and it got acquired by Fortune 500 company. And then after that, my 13-year-old daughter, she wanted me to stay home. Mom, I don't want you to go to work. When we come back from school at 3 p.m., 4 p.m., we are with the nanny or a driver is dropping us home. I don't like that. So we want you to stay home. So I stopped working for 2 years, but then I was just transporting them, driving them here and there. And to be very honest, I was not liking that job. It's it's a mental fatigue, traffic fatigue, and I was not used to doing that. And I will come back later on the further part of the story, but to cut the story short, to solve this problem for the other parents, my children drive now. But to solve the problem for other parents, I started this. And then I want to help out all the parents. I don't want them to go through the pain, the challenges that I went through while raising my daughters here. So that's why that was the story of how GoEase was started. And thank you, Nirdesh, for joining as a CTO and making the platform where it is today.
Well, let's keep it there for a minute then. Tell us a little bit more about, expand on why you started your startup. What was the inspiration? Really tell us what you would like to share.
So, as I mentioned, my previous company was acquired, but I was workaholic. I would say that I used to work long hours in Microsoft, and I would always hire someone to pick up my kids from school and bring them home and pick them up from home, take them to activities. I had that mom guilt, of course, that I am not putting them into enough activities because there are not many options out there which would actually just come to pick up your children from school and drop them to home, or just come to drive them from home to activities. So there, and because not many options were there, I had to hire expensive nannies, which would, like, I would ask them to stay for 3 to 4 hours, although that type of job was not required out of them. One reason was that. The other one was, as I mentioned, when I stayed home, when the company got acquired for 2 years, I was driving them crazy. Music class, there is STEM class, 2 daughters, and my then husband, he didn't want to stay here because it was overwhelming for him also. He said, oh, we come from India, so there the things are taken care by maids, chauffeurs. He thought the struggle here, I just want to earn. I don't want to take care of all these things. And but these things have to be taken care of. So he just left, went to India, and I was on my own taking care of 15-year-old and a 10-year-old, driving them, and also going through, I would say, mental health issues. I know what mental health is because having two daughters and not knowing what life holds for you, coming from a family background where I did not had any sister, brother here. Of course, friends were there, but it was a stigma not to share my story with them. Just show them the rosy picture. Everything is well in the family. So I did not tell my story to a lot of friends for many years, and I probably think this is the first time I'm coming out and sharing it, because I don't feel ashamed of it. I
Yeah,
feel
thank
proud
you.
of it that yeah. So my struggle during those 3-4 years, when I was driving my children and I wanted best for them. The reason, my father did not let my sister study, but I did not want this to happen to my girls. I wanted best for them. Whatever class you want to go to, I am there. Whatever school you want to go to, I'm there. My older one has graduated from Berkeley this year, and my younger one is going to NYU for School of Drama. I'm very, and I have all the time to help other parents. We are here. If you don't have time, we will take care of these needs for you. I know it's a lot of stress on the families. Families break apart, and mine did because of that. This was one of a major concern or a factor in breaking our family, because we were not able to handle too many dynamics of two girls, and then too much coordination, too much work, me not going to work, staying at home, going nuts. Of course, I would have been part of it too.
And then COVID.
But yeah.
On top of that, COVID. It's
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah. COVID happened after that, though, a year after that, but still, yeah.
It's a story of resilience, though, and a great example for your daughters.
They are proud of me. They want me to go to every event. Mom, you go, we are there. I said, hey, I'm leaving you. Mom, we are grown up. We can take care of ourselves. Yeah.
Adaobi, what about you? Why did you choose your startup?
It's a two-pronged situation. So my family's originally from Nigeria, and before the pandemic, we would go there often. And it was 2018 actually. 2018, my cousin and I were in the village with no lights, and we were like, we're going to start a palm oil biodiesel company. We have a palm farm on our land, and then our neighbor happened to be building a manufacturing plant. And so throughout that, we're having this conversation with my grandpa, and he's like, let's do it. Let's get a plantation. But also, as you're making this energy, you have to think about giving that energy to the people whose land you're using. And I was like, well, that's a no-brainer, but I don't believe in philanthropy and just giving people something and, hoping that the environment is going to be better. I've seen it in my country where aid is just given and you don't see anything after the fact, right? So I came back home and I was just thinking, like, how can we get the people involved in the work that we're doing? And a co-op came into my mind. Now, mind you, a co-op is the first business that humans have ever participated in. Whenever there's a group of people that have an issue, they come together, they figure out that issue, and it benefits the people of that co-op, right? And so that's how we built it. I talked to a co-op lawyer in Georgia. He gave me a lot of information about how co-ops are all around our world and people just aren't familiar about it. In Georgia, 60% of our electricity comes from co-ops. A lot of people don't know that. People in New York are telling me about co-ops in housing. Of course, we're from the South, so farmers have been using co-ops, and it just made sense. Now, from the deal aspect, I have a family business. I work in a family business. My dad's a plastic surgeon, and we do a lot of surgery. We have a lot of clients that return to us, and they love us, and we're doing these high-ticket prices, and we're giving them return discounts. Say a $15,000 surgery, and you get a $250 discount. And people are like, wow, thank you so much. We love it here. I'm like, what? Okay. Swipe, like, that's great. But again, I'm having this conversation with our clients, and we have a lot of return patients. We have people who are coming to us from word of mouth, and they're like, yeah, the $250 just shows that you're thinking about me, that I came back. And so now I have, this family business in the US. We have what we have going on in Nigeria, and I'm like, whether you are rich or poor in this country or in this world, you have to spend money. And every consumer wants a deal. So that means that every aspect of our lives, when we're swiping our card, there's an opportunity for that small business to see you spending money with them and give you a deal. Whether it's $250 on a $15,000 procedure or 50% off of a climbing gym, that deal is to show you that I see you, thank you so much for supporting me. And then of course, the consumer, they're spending money. And that's all a small business wants, is people to spend money, come back, have a good time.
Fact.
So for me, we have the best small businesses and we have the best consumers. The co-op aspect just makes it a lot more fun for people to connect, and it gets them active, because if there are no deals offered, the co-op is dead. If no one swipes their card, the co-op is dead. That's where we're at now.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I mentioned a little bit about my background, and the one thing that has driven me, and the common theme, is when I started my career and in the healthcare space for tech companies, a lot of the technology at that time was very enterprise focused. It was diagnostics, it was imaging, it was really focused on everything but the patient. And so for me, my passion has always been around how can you build technology for patients to use? How do you improve the patient experience? And at that time, there wasn't even a name for this. And there was just a couple of us just working in these different labs. But fast forward, I don't know, 15 years or so, then now with the advent of mobile technologies, you started seeing the opportunity to reach patients directly in a very scalable, low-cost way. And that field today is digital health. So for me, it was a lifelong passion around this space. I like solving hard, complex problems. And then as I was looking at this, I'm thinking, okay, well, what are good ways to reach patients? What do people do? Well, a lot of people play games. And as I started looking at the research, at that time, there was already 30 peer-reviewed papers saying games can improve outcomes, mainly in exercising. And this was around the same time, you might remember the Wii coming out, and that was a big deal, and people were starting to lose weight. Kinect came out at that time, and I was at Microsoft Research at that time, and you could see the consumer adoption. So like, okay, consumers are ready. So I said, okay, well, if they can do this in the lifestyle area, what about chronic conditions? Because that's where the cost, if you look from a business, the cost of it's in the healthcare space is, and generally that's sick people, not well people. So what could you do to deliver cost-effective care? And could this be a format to help people? Because so much of healthcare is motivating people. Right? It's not really a technology problem, but can you motivate them? Can you inspire them? Can you give them relief to help them do the things they need to do to take care of themselves? And I mean, how many of you have heard it's really simple, just exercise every day and drink enough water and get sleep? Well, yeah, okay, great. Like it's wonderful, like motherhood and apple pie, but people need real solutions.
The 1% a day.
Right, like it's 1%, right? And so and as I started delving into the problem of chronic health, and this is 2014, so mental health is not, it's a laughing stock of a industry, right? Like as far as medical, in the medical field, nobody was paying attention to it. It was almost derided. Oh yeah, whatever, kind of she, frou, right? And you know, at that time, in meditation was not even really that mainstream. But if you actually looked at cost of care and you start delving into the business case, mental health was actually a huge component of a cost driver. So for example, this is a common stat, someone with a mental health condition who also has another chronic health conditions, cost of care is 2 to 3x more, right? Just for the fact the comorbidities with mental health is so high. So, well, why, if you could kill so many birds with just this one stone of improving the well-being and inspiring. And games do that. They inspire people, they empower people, they meet them where they are. And so that was my origin story, as they say in games, of why I wanted to do this, why I started this. Because this isn't something I just kind of dreamt up. Oh, I'm going to do mental health because it's cool. No, I've been thinking about this space, the problem, what are patients facing on a daily basis? And that's translated into our, even with our first beta, we had people saying, and these were underserved communities, and these are people that are notoriously difficult to reach, motivate. They've got all kinds of things going on. I won't get into that, but people are saying, God, this is life-changing for me. This has saved my life multiple times. And we weren't even in a commercial release yet, right? So, but having that insight, empathy, understanding of not just the technical implementation piece of it, but what do you need to do to build a product that actually makes a difference for somebody? That all came through all the work that I had done prior.
So lots of customer discovery is what you're telling us.
Yes.
A lot of people in this room have a lot of great ideas for businesses, either in the works or in their heads rolling around. I know I have a book of ideas that's, I think I'm on 823 at this point. Maybe you could touch on what advice do you have for moving through those hardest early bits, like the 0 to 1? Like what advice do you have for the folks in this room that are facing that very first hurdle or very first challenge, and maybe from what you've experienced in your own startups or that you've seen in the past?
So, I mean, I think like, where do you start, right? Do you start with brand? Do you start with a product? Or do you start with sales, right? Some companies are sales driven. Some companies are product led. Some, because they have to, are brand led, right? And so I think the hardest part is trying to figure out like where, and that's going to set your strategy for your business, right? If you're product led, and for example, if you're, everyone's talking about AI. If you're an AI company, I don't think you can be brand led. You have to be, I don't think you can be sales led either, right? You have to show and build something. So you have to be product led. Even in healthcare, we can't be sales led to some extent because your customer is going to want to say, show me the evidence, exactly. Show me the proof. So I think, but that sets the tone and tenor of everything else that you're going to do. Are you going to be product led? Are you going to be sales led? It's going to lead to who you hire, how you go about talking about your business, how you're going to go about scaling it. And I say that, and I'm saying you don't have to necessarily be solely focused on that, but that's going to be the first driver. And then but you still have to worry about brand. You still have to worry about sales, right? I mean, we're much smaller than most of our competitions, even though we've been around probably about the same time frame, but they've done, to Jimmy's point, a great job on building brand in the employer space. But we focused on clinical validation. But we end up in the same conversation and breadth as these companies who haven't been able to get the evidence, right? So it's a trade-off, and you just have to be very aware of that.
Yeah. So a focus on what are your first drivers for getting revenue?
Can you repeat the question one more time?
What advice would you have for the folks in this room on facing their first hurdle in maybe the 0 to 1 phase or going from idea to reality?
I think finding that roadblock, like you have to identify what that roadblock is. For me, I am building an organization that is very focused on a community. And when I went out into my community, I'm based in Atlanta, I'm a Black woman. I found that my community that I'm from is not used to building community. There's not a lot of trust there. So even identifying that issue allowed me to now realize that I wasn't just going to walk up to any small business and be like, hey, let's get a deal done. Because my roadblock was, why should I give you a deal? You're trying to undercut my margins or all these other things. I was like, oh, wow, this is serious. And so from there, identifying that roadblock, you now have to shift to another type of market or even just changing the pitch. My first deal was with a bouldering company that was moving into the West End, a historically Black neighborhood. But it's a sport. Bouldering is it's a sport where you don't see a lot of colored people. And so I went to the owners, who are white men, and I was like, hey, like, let's get a deal done. And they're like, sure, what do you want to do? And we had a great deal. We got people who had never been bouldering before, who got to get a discount, got to experience a new sport. And when we asked the owner, like, hey, how was the deal? Did you enjoy? He said, absolutely. Come back anytime you guys want. This is exactly what we need when we're moving into a neighborhood that we're not familiar with. When I asked the people that came, the consumers that came, they said, wow, thank you so much. You just opened my world and I got a discount. These people are awesome. But I was only able to do that because when I was in that same neighborhood, just going to businesses that looked like me, which I thought was a slam dunk, it became clear that wasn't the issue. That wasn't what was going to happen. So being able to identify that roadblock and then move around it, that is my advice.
That's a great one. I think giving it a name is a big deal. Giving it a name and then walking it backwards and saying, okay, well, if that is actually the problem, what do I need to do to get around that? What's the process worked around? What about you, Vandana?
There have been many roadblocks and we still hit them. So the company I started in 2019. It's and the first thing we wanted to run is like a pilot program with an activity provider. You know how much I gave a ride that is worth $26 today to them, $7 per child, and that's like we gave huge discount because we wanted to try it out. Of course, COVID hit within a month and we had to stop it. And then when we were back, we were trying hard, but none of the children were going to activities or everything was happening remote. So that was like we kind of held on, paused on our operations. And when it was ready to start back again, what we tried to do was create the list of activity providers. It was very hard to generate that trust with parents when we have not serviced any rides. They had so many questions. But the first point we hit with the activity provider is that they also wanted to start. After COVID hit, their also business was down because everything was happening remote. They wanted to start and they thought this was a great partnership. We again, started with discounted rate. But that's how we gave them the rides on a very low cost, but we wanted to start. And this was a push from my advisor, Melissa from Pogo Rides that came, Vandana, what are you doing? Others have raised so much funding and you are just thinking about it. So on one fine day I said, no, now we will not think about it. Let's just launch no matter how many children we have. And we started with 12 from that activity provider and then we have grown past that.
So maybe dropping the price to prove that there's a need.
Yes
was great.
Yeah. And then the biggest challenge we had was to develop that trust that we are legit, considering if you can hear my accent, it is coming from lots of call centers. Some of the parents would think someone is calling them from call center and they would just, keep the phone. Now I don't get that because I think I have practiced my script too. But earlier there was a lot, and we had customers like they had so much of anger built into them. I don't know why, but just patience with them. I think I always told myself that their day at work is not going well. That's why they are behaving that way. And I have to be patient with them. They're still my customer, by the way. So it's been 3 years. I thought, they wouldn't last for 1 week, but no, patience, talking to them, understanding their concerns has helped.
That might be a female trait that we might be better at than others. But everyone's talked about funding and money and community at the same time, but I'd like to go back to you. And what sources of funding has worked for you, or unique or different ways of funding?
Sure. So our split's about a third angel, a third of our money came from strategic investors, And then the third came from grants or awards.
Tell us about that second piece. Explain
Strategics, yeah. So they're corporates that have a mandate, and sometimes they have programs. I think I would assume Jimmy was in that kind of role where they're looking for startups that are aligned with their strategic priorities. So, so in our case, we had Bayer Pharmaceuticals, because they had mandate around brain health, I think is what they were calling it. And they had a program for the startups that you would go through.
How did you find them? Or did they find you?
So we had won the TIE, it's the Indus Entrepreneurs, I can think they call it something ideas and entrepreneurs now, but it's Indian entrepreneurs. And we had won one of their like startup of the year awards or something. And so I was just at the conference, and a Bayer representative was there talking about I think I might have read it. I might have checked, like seen something on LinkedIn or something online, right? I'm always searching online. And then I think I might have saw that he was going to be there, this representative or something. Like, okay, I'm going to go to California, have a good excuse, and like, hey, we're one of these winners this year. You should talk to us, right? That kind of thing. And that I was trying to grab him out of like, everybody like bum rushes the stage, right? And trying to talk to these guys afterwards. And so, but I managed to grab him and he talked to him for like an hour or something. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but at that point he said, yeah, you should apply and so on. So I think there were like 750 applications out of like 50 countries, and they picked 10.
Wow.
Right.
Any advice for how you broke through on writing?
I don't know. And it was 11 rounds of judging, by the way. And one last one was a patient panel.
Wow.
Right. So it was ridiculous.
That is, that's cutthroat.
I had nothing to do with it. Like after they told us, I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, really? Yeah. Pharma, I guess. That's why healthcare is so expensive. 11 rounds. Same application.
So chasing him to California and running him down, trying to find those alternate funding sources.
Yeah. So strategics were, and I wrote the application. I am a very detailed, my applications are very highly detailed. And I didn't leave a single thing out, which probably worked for pharma. 11 rounds of judging, but maybe other industries that would not necessarily. So you have to know your audience and who you're working for, right? So some other places, there were other accelerators that were focused on health tech. We found, this was a weird story. So this was really, really early on. The American Health Insurance Plans, AHIP, was having their annual conference here in Seattle. And I got an invitation. You needed a conference badge, which I didn't buy a conference badge because I couldn't afford it. But also, I don't want to sit through a bunch of insurance stuff, right? And I worked in insurance, so like I really didn't want to sit through anything. But there was this one panel or this one event, and I somehow got an invite to that, and it was like this like future of health tech. It's 2014, right? Like, so what does this mean for payers and everything? And it's dark, and they tried to make it cool. So they had like the white curtains and like the club lighting, and it was stupid, but they had like, how can you make insurance sexy? You can't. So and then and it's all dark, right? So which is very unusual for a conference like that, right? You can't see literally anybody. So they have spotlights going around when people are asking like a question. And so this guy from Michigan, he was this professor talking about some sort of digital health solution or whatever. And I just launched my company. We were in beta. And so I kind of get up, and the spotlight's on me. I'm talking. I got this game, blah, blah, blah. And, of course, at that time, and even now, people are like, what the hell? But I'm talking about it. And then I sit down, right? And then all of a sudden, like literally the next day, later on that day, I get this text. I have no idea who it is. Hey, I heard you speak. I want to talk to you. And I'm like, what the fuck? And like, I'm getting these random texts. And so then this guy was like, and so what happened was, and he turned out to be our next strategic investor. He's like,
wow, not a rando crazy person.
Yeah, because he was like, hey, I'm from Arizona and I'm visiting. Can I have breakfast with you the next day? I'm like, oh, okay.
Wow.
But I'm like, how did you get my number? He's like, yeah, because I saw you from across the way, spotlit. I didn't know who you were. So I started asking everybody around, do you know this person? And do you have her phone number?
Wild.
And one of my friends was there with me, or somebody who knew me, and it was like, yeah, here's her number. And I'm like, what the hell?
Wow.
So
because normally for female identifying people, like this is like the daily, but it's crazy. It's not actual investors.
yeah, I mean, it was like, what? And they became our first clinical test site because they were working with the underserved community in Arizona. And so we worked with their case managers and everything too at that time. But it turned out to be a great experience. But I mean, you just never know. You just like get up there and just speak your piece or whatever you're doing, right? Even in the weirdest places, and you'll never know who's in the audience.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that's a key point of like community and chasing down opportunities that you just don't know will work or not. You never know. You just have to go and try. Put yourself in the room, build your community of people. I think I got my job by doing that, but it took me 2 years of over 250 conversations with people and learning how to ask for those conversations too. But letting people know, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. This is where I'm trying to go with myself. And then building a cadre of people that are out there looking for me as well. But I'm freely giving help to my peers. I'm freely doing resume checks and, prep interviews and passing on job opportunities to other people, because helping others feels good, but it's also building a group of people that are looking out for you and saying, hey, this might be a great opportunity for you or for my friend. And so the more people you tell, the bigger your group and your community can help you. And I'm curious what worked for you for funding real quick. Was it bootstrapped or what worked?
So I think it's important to first note that even though we are building a co-op that is indeed a for-profit organization, people hear co-ops and they're like, oh, it's a nonprofit, like Ron was saying, you need impact funding. And it's like, no, we're building things and there's money to be made. And just to kind of give people an understanding about our business model, Groupon's business model is that they sell a deal and they take about 40 to 60% off that deal from the small business. It's a crazy number when you're a small business and you're already discounting your fees and you're having these people who don't know you come in and then Groupon's taking money. We have done deals for the last 5 years and we actually haven't taken any money from people. We've broken even, but because of that, we've been able to keep deals going, and that means that our co-op is surviving. During when the pandemic first kicked off, 2020, the CARES Act actually allowed me to tap into my 401k without having to pay the under 59 tax. I still had to pay taxes, but that's another conversation. And so that was actually how I've been able to manage the co-op for the last few years, getting these deals out and putting that money up front and selling the deal back to people at cost. We've lost some money on some deals, but for the most part, we've broken even. I'm now in this space where I have, gotten my business plan together and we are raising money to build our web application. But my first thing telling people is that this is a for-profit organization. There is an opportunity to make money. We're just not going to shit on people to get it. Some VCs don't like that.
I mean, it's brave.
A lot of VCs don't like that. They're like, what? I can't get my money now? Like, you can't just undercut from the business and, get my money? I'm like, no, it's a co-op. And because of that, there is that, soul within how we're doing business. And for the last few years, I've gotten a lot of no's from the VCs because it's just, they were like, oh, go with the impact funding, go call Patagonia. And I'm like, no, we're here to make money. We don't just spend your money because that's not what the business model is.
We can't all call Patagonia.
I know, right? I do want to deal with them because I love their jackets. So that is another conversation.
Yeah. Vandana, I would love to end with you and in your inspiring story with daughters. Women often wear multiple hats, more so than their male counterparts. What advice or uplift, positive message, like if your audience, if our audience were your daughters, what would you want them to know?
Yeah, if I was talking to my daughters, I would just say that there are challenging times, but they don't stay the same. Every day is a new day. Just look at it as a possibility, and surround yourself with friends, and just have that grit, and you will overcome it. Um, you have been born with the unique skills that no one else has. Everybody else has their own unique skill, but you have your own skills. Um, so, whenever the time is tough, take one step at a time. And you have seen what happened in our home. I tell them, I was a mom who was laying in bed, not getting up. But I think my daughters are the one who actually made me get up, because they are going to school now. If they see me like this, then what will happen to them? No, I have to get up. So they have seen me. So I don't think that situation will come to them, because they know that how to get up when the things are not going your way. And I would say that just look at every new day, next day, and I tell them, take 8 hours of sleep. Don't reduce this, because that's how your
Stay
brain is going to
down.
function. Eat at the right time, sleep at the right time, wake up at the right time. 8 hours sleep is must. More than 3 liters of water every day is must. So these are very important things. Actually,
Maybe
you
start
will
with
realize
wine.
how much control of emotions you have when you are following the cycle of earth, or sun and moon cycle.
Thank you.
So I do give it, I mean, this might be outdated advice maybe, but this is what I tell them. And whenever you are facing some challenges, maybe at work, with friends, or wherever, just step back, think about it a little bit. Maybe this is not right for you. Maybe something better is out there for you. Or maybe you have not done enough preparation. So you have to take time. But things will happen and turn around.
Thank you. Do we have audience questions? Come up to the microphone if you'd like.
We've got a minute.
Yeah.
I had a question for Swatee. I was asking about, do you guys do, I used to work, I'm a respiratory therapist by trade. But I used to be one, not anymore. Now we're doing this startup. But do you guys work in pediatric hospice or hospice care in general? Is that something that you guys focus on? Because I feel like that would be a good application for you guys.
Yeah, it really depends on the providers and their receptivity when you're talking about a healthcare setting. So it's certainly very applicable. Like I tried working with children so many times, and like there was even a researcher who was doing VR. It's just really hard to get provider attention. So if you can, if they're receptive, then yeah, that can work. And we've been in clinical settings, but it's just really up to them. And they decide what's appropriate for their students. Certainly pediatrics. We work mainly with an adult population. That's what the game is targeted towards. But we see spill over into, because the kids will see the parents playing and they're like, what are you doing? And then they say, well, I'm playing this game. You want to play? Like, okay. And what is it for? And it actually spurs the conversation around mental health. And in fact, I got a story about a teenager in Britain, a mom. And she said, yeah, my daughter has daily anxiety, panic attacks where I have to come pick her up. And this was during COVID. And it was finals week for them. And I asked, how's it going? Because in Britain, I guess they were going to school. And she said, oh, I'm doing, I was fine, but I had a panic attack. And I went into the bathroom and I breathed with Socks. Socks is the game character. And at first the mother was like, why didn't I know about this? What the hell? Like, just shocked. And she's like, no, I breathed with Socks and I put it back in my backpack and I went on and did my finals. So certainly we see a lot of that kind of behavior as well, but it's really up to the providers.
One thing I'd like to end with real quick is that we all know the stats. Most of us probably know the stats. Less than 2% of all investment goes to women, and less than 1% go to people of color. And a nice fact to end on, though, is that female founders, on average, exit 1 year earlier and faster and make more money on their return. So, thank you, ladies, for the panel.
Thank you so much. Let me get a quick picture.